collaboration. I think collaboration in today's world is the name of the game. Uh, Collaborating with technology partners, collaborating with fintechs, collaborating with universities, ensuring that as organizations, we are also building our own ecosystems.
Hello and welcome to a whole new episode of Engati CX. This is your favorite CX show. We talk all things CX, digital transformation, and we have experts coming from all over the world and giving their insights about these things. And I'm your host, Rahul, and today you guys are in for a treat as usual because we have somebody special on the show today. We've got a digital transformation and CX expert with us today on the show. Before we introduce you to her, let's just introduce a quick introduction to Engati. Engati is the world's leading multilingual no-code chatbot platform available across 14 channels with 30,000 bots created across 186 countries in every domain and use case. Engati has also been recognized as a top platform by Inc.com, TechWorld, CIO, and many others. We run the Engati blog, the video channel, and the Engati CX podcast, receiving upwards of 400,000 visitors annually. And now for our guest, none other than Namrata Jolly. She is a highly inclusive, culturally aware, and accomplished senior leader who has run, coached, and mentored large teams in the financial service industry across organizations such as Credit Suisse, Citibank, and Prudential. Namrata has extensive exposure across asset management, retail banking, trust banking, and insurance in the areas of digital engagement and marketing, digital customer experience, customer segmentation, customer journey mapping, operations, and technology. So welcome to the show, Namrata. It's such an honor to have you on board.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Appreciate that. So shooting the first question directly to you, Namrata, is let's talk about digital transformation because this has been a buzzword for like a long time now. So how is digital transformation really different, in the banking sector compared to the other industries?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right in terms of buzzword, and there are many, many different nuances where there are different terminologies used to describe digital transformation. But when it comes to banking and other industries, when businesses have required to process large volumes of transactions reliably, be able to maintain 24/7 availability of systems, meeting complex regulatory requirements, analyzing risks, and making financial plans, banking has been at the forefront of this because it's a highly regulated industry. There's also, you're dealing with people's money, and it's therefore very essential to ensure that there is a trust factor which is in place. You therefore need to be a reliable operator. Mm-hmm. So as far as all these things are concerned, I think a lot of industries have historically looked to banking as a gold standard. Right. But as we are going ahead, banks haven't always been, they've had their shares of successes and shares of failures, and it's an ongoing journey, not just for banks, but financial services, I would say, where banks have been a leader versus insurance and asset management and others. So if you look at digital transformation journeys within banks, I think the success rate has been in the 30 to 40%, and digital transformations are hard. So all established banks see digital transformation as a top priority to help them counter disruption, not just from challenger banks and other fintechs, but also from technology companies. And there is a huge lot that banks are now learning. And this is what has been different versus other industries. I think the industry where banks are learning a lot from is the technology sector. Right. And we are talking about the likes of Google, Amazon, Facebook, and so on, in terms of the ability to be agile, the ability to be able to pivot, have the boldness to be able to take a few steps, try something, be able to fail, accept failure. Mm-hmm. But absolutely, the difference is this failure has to be within a safety net, right? Which technology companies, given that they were not that highly regulated, and I think banks have during the process of transformation have taken one of two approaches. Mm-hmm. Either they've gone into an approach where they've created an internal organization which is separate from the main business. Mm-hmm. With the remit to develop new technology products and services, but something that is unencumbered or restricted by their legacy platforms.
Mhm.
And the other end of the spectrum has been where they have looked at taking a few parts of the business and trying to digitize what they have to make processes more efficient and so on. And I have my own views on one versus the other, but I understand the complexities which are involved in bringing the entire organization along.
Right.
So I think the other thing which has been different, apart from agility, being bold, ability to fail, let us not forget is the human element, right? And that is culture, extremely, extremely critical, very important for any organization, any bank going through a transformation. Actually, any organization in general. And when you look at the technology companies, the big fours, they have been extremely, extremely focused on culture, and they exercise a lot of rigor in whom they bring into the organization. In addition to having the technical skills that they need for a job to be performed, there is quite a bit of intricacy in terms of looking at whether a person would actually be a cultural fit in the organization. And this is quite important, because you ultimately need the entire organization to come together, because there's the need to scale, there's the need to be able to make changes from time to time. People need to be comfortable with handling ambiguity, and change is the only constant
Right.
when you're going through a transformation. So I think those are some of the differences, and where banks are already learning from technology companies.
Absolutely. And these are certain important points, but let's focus on certain challenges, right? So that you mentioned that, banks go through certain challenges during the process of a digital transformation journey. Now, obviously, like you mentioned, one of the challenges is because the risk factor is high, because it's the people's money that you are, playing with or maybe dealing with. So other than that, Namrata, what kind of challenges does this industry face in particular, and how can we really overcome such challenges?
Yeah, I think some of the challenges that banks face today. So first of all, competition,
Mhm.
and this is not just, like I said, not just competition from challenger banks
Mm.
or fintech companies. This is now banks are also seeing challenge from the technology players, and these
Right.
are players who already have established scale
Mm.
in a lot of other product segments, while now they are coming into financial services, whether it's payments or whatever else, even
Right.
insurance. So that's one. And these technology companies have established customer experiences, which customers are used to. When you're going to shop on Amazon, there is an intuitive set of experiences that you have access to,
Mhm.
and so on and so forth. So customers then look at their bank saying, hey, if I'm getting these intuitive experiences and this kind of ease of usability when I'm interacting with A, B, and C, why can't I get it from my bank as well? So,
Right.
so these experiences and this level of expectation is becoming normalized.
Mhm.
And therefore, banks really need to up the game in covering this gap in customer expectations.
Mm. Absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah.
the
Go ahead.
third the third thing I would say definitely is regulation, right? And regulation, banking has always been a very highly regulated industry, but is becoming even more so, um, given the amount of digitization, the amount of data, right, which people are exchanging, the number of transactions as people transact more and more digitally on a regular basis.
Mm.
And therefore, the storage of this data, the usage of technologies like cloud. How do you ensure that customers' data, which is sensitive, very sensitive information, is really taken care of, and you have customer consent before you actually end up using this data?
Right.
um, I think the third thing is also that different markets, you will find different regulations. Some countries require physical storage of information or data, physical customer data,
Right.
on within the country, while others are more open to it. So this is something which is an ongoing challenge, and I think is something that banks just have to deal with. given they have such a strong fiduciary responsibility towards their customers.
Got it.
The other one I'd say for sure is cybersecurity, right? Just with the whole uh, rise of digital technology, amount of data, you have not just applications on the cloud, you have infrastructure on the cloud, right? You have companies looking to move away from having to maintain their own data centers to more scalable and economically viable
Hmm.
managing of their infrastructure. So when you have everything on the cloud, making sure that even though it's all these really cool technology vendors who are handling all this for you, ultimately as a bank you are answerable to the end customer, right?
Absolutely.
So the rise of fraud as well. Um, so I think that's another area which the banking industry in general is having to face, evolving away from legacy applications, right?
Hmm.
um, you still have banks where a lot of coding is done in CBOL, right?
Right. Right.
Today. And moving away from legacy applications requires a lot. It requires investment. It requires the entire organization to come together to saying, hey, this is, yes, we're going to go down this route. We are going to spend money. This is the return on investment we expect, because you don't want people to also get disenchanted or disillusioned along the journey, that we are spending all this money, but where are the returns? Where do I see the returns coming? So having a very strong business case as you're going along, and a management and leadership team which is strongly aligned, because like I said, the cultural element is very important in a transformation. When all the leaders are saying the same thing, then their teams are also aligned. But when you have different people saying different things, that's where confusion happens. If there's not enough clarity in communication, employees get, lose trust or the passion with which to go ahead, especially when the going gets tough. It's very important for everyone to be talking the same thing. So culture of agility, customer obsession, being comfortable with ambiguity and constant change.
Right. Yeah. So it's like a cluster of a lot of things coming together and then kind of like going towards one approach. So it's not just digital transformation, but like, it's a lot of things coming into play. Uh,
That's right.
that's right. And I mean, and it's no secret that obviously like you have experience across geographical borders also. And so while talking about, different areas and different parts of the globe, so according to you, how can we drive digital transformation across the globe? And what are the challenges faced while driving that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a very, very important question, especially for organizations that have footprint across the globe.
Right.
And I've had the privilege and the opportunity to run digital transformation programs globally at Citi, and then here in Asia at Prudential as well.
Mhm.
So I think first it comes down to clarity. What is the transformation we are trying to achieve, as a leadership team? What is it that the organization wants to achieve? Because once you have clarity as a leadership team, being able to articulate that to the rest of the organization, and articulate that to a clarity that where your most senior managing director all the way to the developer, who's extremely important in delivering what ultimately gets used, everyone has a good understanding of the vision, and see where their role fits, in making this vision actually um, basically become a reality. So communication, I have seen, is extremely important, and it's not just about the vision, but as you go through a digital transformation, making sure that you're keeping people informed about how the transformation is progressing, how their efforts are helping the organization, helping the customers, right? So, like I said, the entire leadership team needs to be on board. And when you're talking about a global organization, it's not just, so usually you would start a transformation in one country because you want to also be able to have stories to share of success, right? And that helps to drive a lot of motivation. It inspires other markets to follow suit as well. So you start with the country and then move across regions. The other one, which I mentioned, was yes, ability to demonstrate success in one market, which then gets talked about and shared about with different countries. The other thing is, um, don't try to standardize 100% because you won't be able to, right? So it could be a 75-25 rule or an 80-20 rule where you try and standardize a lot of the processes and therefore the technology. But I think we have to be very cognizant that every market has its own cultural nuances, has its own regulatory nuances, which regulatory nuances will not be radically different, but you will need to have the ability to have flexibility, right? In terms of what then gets implemented. And very important is to maintain the local flavor of what you deliver for the business in that country. So globalization or standardization, but with a solid element of localization is extremely important. And this is across business processes, keeping that in mind. I think the other thing is sharing of successes on a regular basis, and that this is something that we did at City as well, quite often. And this was bringing on leaders from the market, because running programs globally, you don't want necessarily to be talking about this yourself. You want the country leaders to be speaking about how the transformation journey is going, how they are seeing it improve their customer experience scores, what is the feedback from their customers, how are they seeing revenue growth, and so on and so forth. And I think that inspires a lot of momentum then in other markets to follow suit. So I think those I think are some of the elements to definitely keep in mind when driving a global transformation across your business.
Right, and what important, the most interesting point that I caught here is the inclusion of that particular culture, right? Because at the end of the day, it's there, it's that place where you're operating, and unless you have that flavor in, it's very difficult, right? And you can't actually standardize everything,
Yeah.
and that's absolutely correct. Now that I think about it, but let's talk about two important things that I think you do, and which is actually taking over businesses globally, and that's digital transformation and customer experience strategies, right? So the main important question we have over here is, how can you align these two, right? Align your digital transformation and customer strategies, and what elements would fall in the short term plan in aligning both?
Yeah, so for me, actually, frankly, the way I look at it is both are exactly the same.
Mhm.
I think keeping in mind the fact that digital is a technology, it
Right.
is a medium, or it's a set of tools
Mhm.
that empower you, that enable you as a business
Mhm.
to perform better,
Right.
right? And what is it that you're trying to achieve as a business?
Mhm.
Better customer experience, better operational efficiencies, being able to ensure that you're bringing your goods and services, which is basically your products and services, to market faster. You
Mhm.
have a faster ability to scale. Um, so what I'd very simplistically boil this entire thing down to is, the objective of any business is to be able to create value for its customers, create value for its employees, very important,
Mhm.
and create value for its stakeholders. You will notice I don't say shareholders, but I say stakeholders.
Right.
And the reason I say that is, it is your shareholders for sure. It's the people who are investing in your business. It's the people who take a leap of faith and trust what you're selling, and invest in you. But at the same time, it is the communities you operate in, it is your employees, and all these together form your stakeholders. If you don't have happy customers, happy employees, you won't have happy customers.
Absolutely.
So coming back to this thing, that always seems to be this big confusion. Oh, we need to align digital transformation strategy and our customer experience strategy, but they have to work hand in hand, because the customer experience is the value that you bring to your customer. And you need to be able to have your systems, whether they are front end systems, and therefore, the jazzy front end, which we call the digital interfaces,
Right.
or your back end systems, which help you, process massive amounts of data at scale, but help you bring these intuitive experiences to the front. They have to work together. So that's the digital element or the system element.
Right.
And this is what the customer ends up seeing, which is your digital customer experience or customer experience. And I think the one thing which a lot of organizations end up missing is that the experience has to flow end to end. That is very, very important. It's not just great, for me as a customer to go online and apply for a credit card. And that just takes me, less than a minute to complete that application form. But then I have to wait 10 days for the card to be delivered.
Right.
Right. So from an end-to-end customer experience, a customer doesn't care that, your operations department has to do manual work or their processes are not great. But, the front-end customer experience team is doing a great job, and I had a fantastic time filling up an application form.
Right.
So the end-to-end experience is what matters for the customer. So digital transformation, customer experience transformation, for me, these are all one and the same. Digital is a set of tools. It's the technology that helps you achieve, these fantastic experiences that create value for your customers. And therefore, there are a couple of different ways that businesses go about looking at this. And what I have found very helpful is to look at the entire customer life cycle and all the journeys that the customer takes with you, at different times when they come in and interact with you. And I'll just give you a simple example to put it in context. So as a customer, let's say I'm interacting with a bank. I'm not a customer yet, so I'm a prospect. So prospecting, I can be interacting with a bank through a relationship manager, through direct channel where I come in straight onto your website, or it could be through a partner, right? A partner to the bank. So that's the prospecting phase. So what is the experience there for me as a prospect? Is it differentiated? Is there a way for the bank to know that, hey, Namrata fits into my, say, proposition A or proposition B or proposition C? Because we also know that one size doesn't fit all anymore.
Correct.
Then when I come in, I get onboarded. What is my onboarding experience like, right? And thereafter, when I become a customer, how am I being serviced on a regular basis? How is the organization, bank ABC, whatever it may be, how is it interacting and engaging with me, right? So one is where I go out and engage, but there are also instances where an organization can engage.
Right.
Opportunity to cross-sell, opportunity to upsell. How are these experiences being offered? And you will see I'm calling these experiences, right? But when you map it back to the bank, it is the middle office. It is the product team. It is the customer experience team who is orchestrating it at the front end. But it's also the technology teams who are working in the back end to make this experience visible to the customer. Right. So digital transformation and customer experience are absolutely hand in hand. And then very importantly, how are you measuring it? Because what you don't measure, you can't improve, right?
Right.
So what are your business metrics? And when I say business metrics, I am not limiting myself to operational metrics. These are very, very much customer experience metrics, right? So what is my ability to retain my customers, onboarding ratios, my retention ratios? If there's a situation where it's customer is a mature customer, what are we doing to make sure that we are offering them exciting products and services that helps them stay with us, as against look at the challenger bank and say, hey, they're doing a much better job and let me just go. So that's what I'd say about digital transformation and customer experience. They go totally hand in hand. These are different terms that are being used, but back to what a business needs to achieve, and that is creation of value for your customers, for your employees, and for your stakeholders.
Right. Absolutely. And I love how you've broken down two concepts and actually, laid it down only for one concept is to provide value for the customer and make life easier for them at the end of the day. Because that's all we do this for. I mean, and
Yeah.
I absolutely love that idea. So, talking about digital transformation more, now I know we touched a certain part, certain points from this question, but this is the question is what are the first steps we need to take crafting a digital transformation strategy. Now I know you spoke about clear conversation communication throughout the leadership and the team, so what other challenges, because Namrata, we have been talking to a lot of people and they complain heavily about the adoption and the ability to adapt to this transformation, because this strategy is not easy, let's be honest, right? So what are the first couple of things that an organization can take care of, the certain steps which can help us craft a digital transformation strategy and implement it smoothly?
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, I am going to be reiterating quite a few things again because it comes down to you may have the most cool of technology, and,
Right.
and that doesn't matter.
Mm.
It comes, I would start with the people. And
Right.
again, I would start with clarity of understanding of the leadership team. What is
Mhm.
it that we want to achieve, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
That is extremely important. Communication you cannot do away with, but at the same time, while and it is very useful for organizations to take a decent amount of time while they are looking at what is this vision
Mhm.
we want to achieve, and not just, hey, okay, we need to transform digitally or we need to provide the best customer experiences. It is worthwhile looking at that point at your competition,
Mhm.
looking at what does it take to create a sustainable business, given the fact that you will always have competition, you will always have challenging environment.
Mhm.
In addition to regulation, right? Um, there is the huge need for trust as risks like cybersecurity and so on become more and more loud, right?
Mhm.
On In this landscape, and taking a sufficient amount of time to workshop this with the leadership team. And I think it's also, as a part of that, it's very helpful to engage with customers to bring their feedback in, because customers are looking at their engagement across industries.
Right.
Like we just spoke,
Right.
the engagement that and interaction that customers have with technology companies, where they see these fantastic new age experiences and then they're expecting their bank to be able to engage and provide the same.
Mhm.
So having, and also we all know that the strategy that we put in place is a time bound strategy, right?
Mhm. True.
We also have to have the flexibility to say, yes, this is going to be changing. This is what they so call living document, right? Or a living strategy.
Right.
um, and therefore the ability also for the leadership team to handle this ambiguity. But you have to be able to take a cut at a point in time so that the rest of your organization can then go through, flow, and execute.
Mhm.
uh, but at the same time, having the ability for your teams also to be able to handle this level of ambiguity,
Mhm.
that yes, we are going down path A, but it so happens that that didn't end up being the right path. So
Right.
we're going to have to quickly change course and cut our losses so that we don't end up spending too much,
Mhm.
and change direction and move on. So this ability to handle ambiguity, I think, is now a universal skill set apart from understanding technology, in addition to be able to understand your business.
Right.
And it's very important for the leadership team to be um, open and have a good understanding of the value that the technologies bring to not just their own parts of the value chain, but the end to end experience. So even if I'm someone who's in legal, right,
Right.
um, having an appreciation of the fact that, yes, I can't just be someone who's dictating legal and compliance and saying, no, you can't do A, you can't do B. But how do I bring value to the table that, hey guys, okay, this doesn't work because we need to make sure we are following regulation, but let's look at A, B, and C, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also be someone who brings solutions to the table constantly.
Mm-hmm. One important factor which not a lot of people talk and which you have pointed it out is that the comparison part where the customers are comparing banks to even technology companies, right? And I think now the competition is bigger, the scale is wider, and it's like, you got to up your game to be there at the top. But I think it's exciting times also, because
Definitely.
we see a lot of growth which we never thought we'll see, especially in banking areas wherein it used to be pretty monotonous, and now a lot of technologies are coming through, and a lot of new experiences. So exciting times ahead for sure. So really looking forward for that. And well, the conversation has been great, Namrata. There have been so many insights and really fresh ideas. So thank you for that. And before we close out, are there any thoughts that you'd like to leave our audience with?
I think I absolutely agree with the fact that this is a very, very interesting time that we are in right now. It's a time of change, um, and it's the opportunity to be constantly growing,
Mm.
not just as organizations but also as individuals. And what I mean by that is being open to learning new things continuously, because technologies are changing constantly. They're getting upgraded. There's just totally new sets which are coming in, and I think it's very, very helpful to be very open to listening to what our customers are saying, what our stakeholders are saying, and collaboration. I think collaboration in today's world is the name of the game. Uh, Collaborating with technology partners, collaborating with fintechs, collaborating with universities, ensuring that as organizations we are also building our own ecosystems, and also putting in place value added services, which is another area apart from just the core business which organizations have been focusing on. How do you look at, as a bank for example, how do you start looking at digital health, how do you start looking at telemedicine, um, all of which are areas that matter to your customers,
Right.
right? And when I come to a bank's app for 101 things, and I now see that a bank also allows me the capability to reach out virtually to a doctor network and have a virtual conversation, and I can get a prescription through the app. And once I have a prescription, I can also get the prescription filled with a rider network like a Grab or a Gojek or a whoever else who then delivers it to me at my home.
Right.
So yes, I think the opportunities are just amazing right now, mind-boggling. So keeping our minds open to these possibilities, as we transform digitally and look at, don't close ourselves to just our core business, but look at all the other things that can add value to our customers.
Absolutely. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Namrata Jolly for you, dropping gems exclusively on Engati CX. Well, thank you so much, Namrata, for giving us your time. Your insights are amazing, and I know our audience are really going to enjoy watching this interview.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure's ours. And we'll be back with a new episode with a brand new expert soon. So stay tuned, and we'll see you around for the next one. Thank you.